Hello, and thank you for joining our third annual Day with DISA. Before the session gets started, let's go over a few things. A copy of the presentation will be available to download once the session has ended under the Materials section. If you have questions about the information in this session, enter them in the Q&A section below, and the speaker will answer them once the session has ended. If we don't get to your question, we'll reach out to you at the end of the conference. If you have questions about the topics or trends that are mentioned throughout Day with DISA and how they pertain to your company, and you'd like to reach out to one of our team members directly, hit the chat icon at the bottom of daywithdisa.com and you'll be connected directly with one of our team members. Thank you for attending live. Each of our live attendees is eligible for our prize drawing at the end of the conference. And each session that you attend live increases your chances of winning either a Nintendo bundle or a brand new iPhone 12. Finally, I'd like to take this time to thank all of our sponsors for their participation in Day with DISA. Specifically, I'd like to call out CRL, our title sponsor for 3 years running. We'd like to thank our platinum sponsors, OraSure, Quest Diagnostics, Samba Safety, and Psychomedics. All of our sponsors' support is greatly appreciated. With that, let's get started. Enjoy your session.
Welcome to Day with DISA's Product Service Overview. My name is Colin Woods, and I'm going to be covering the suite of services and solutions that DISA Global Solutions offers to its clients. There are two ways to interact with DISA to get any questions you may have answered. One is a chat button at the bottom of your screen. Go ahead and click on that, and you'll be able to live chat with one of our sales executives. The second option is the Q&A button. This is where you'll be able to enter your questions. At the end of this presentation, I will be answering some questions, and then all questions will be followed up by a sales representative so you can go into more detail with regards to your current program needs and any questions you may have. Thank you. As General Manager of DISA Global Solutions, I oversee a number of departments, including sales and marketing, client services, and operations, all within the DISA Work system. I've been with DISA since 2002, so I've had the opportunity to see DISA grow and evolve and expand its service offerings. These services have expanded based on industry trends, as well as listening to our clients. Your feedback is essential to identifying what opportunities exist to streamline your employee screening processes and your fleet management programs. The next several slides will introduce all of our services and go into detail on each one. So who is DISA? DISA started back in 1986 as a third-party administrator, or TPA, focused on drug and alcohol testing solutions. Over the years, these solutions have expanded to include Department of Transportation agencies, and what I like to call our secret sauce, which is the DISA Contractors Consortium. In the early 2000s, we started adding additional service offerings to help our clients comply with various regulatory requirements as well as policy requirements. A few call-outs: we have over 45,000 clients enterprise-wide. We're managing over 4 million employee records, and we have been voted the #1 TPA brand by an industry-leading survey since 2017. We also have 36 North American offices focused on a variety of different service offerings, and I'll touch on some of those in a second. And all of these services are managed through web-based, state-of-the-art proprietary platforms that our operational groups work with, as well as our clients. I'd like to start out with a list of our services, and the first one I'll cover is our drug and alcohol testing program. This was the original service offering that we had back in 1986, and it is also our largest service offering. We focus on all types of policies, including the Department of Transportation agencies, company programs, and client requirements that fall within the contractor consortium. Over the years, we have expanded and focused on paperless initiatives. These include electronic custody and control forms and online account management, whether that's monitoring and managing your random employee selections, pulling down invoices, or retrieving test results and statistical reports. Next, I'll go into detail on background screening, which is our second largest product offering. This started back in the early 2000s with just a handful of products. Over the years, it's evolved to include bundled products, grading and evaluation, and a lot of paperless initiatives, including applicant entry. We now have nearly 36 different background check products for our clients to choose from. Sampling of these include criminal history checks, Social Security validity checks, employment and education verification, and several other verifications essential to either onboarding an employee or maintaining that employee's compliance with clients and regulations. Next, we have transportation compliance. This is a large umbrella solution that has a number of different services within it. It's also our fastest growing solution. Originally, we set out to focus on DOT-regulated truck drivers, but quickly learned and developed non-Department of Transportation regulated solutions. So again, think of company vehicles as an example. So we focus on all of the DOT modalities now. We have a number of services, including monitoring with regards to motor vehicle records, and then moving into fleet management. With regards to occupational health screening, this is a solution that we provide both through DISA-owned service centers as well as third-party vendor partners. We've got an extensive network, including thousands of occupational medical facilities across the country that allow for clients to choose a variety of different programs. In addition to drug and alcohol collections, you'll also have various physicals and fitness for duty checks. And then lastly, we have our training solutions. And training encompasses both online and classroom training, as well as policy review and development and audit support. Now, all of these programs fall into these different buckets. Corporate policies. These are programs dictated by the employer. So if you have pre-employment requirements, random requirements, certain training requirements, that is the client's decision, and they put together policies and requirements for their employees. With regards to DOT policies or Department of Transportation, these are federally regulated programs, and they're specific to individuals that fall under those covered tasks. And then lastly, you have contractor compliance programs, which are client-driven. And again, these are across various sites, various industry segments and geographies, and they are focused on several different drug and alcohol testing methodologies, as well as background check programs. All of these solutions are designed to drive compliance, and complying with these programs ultimately leads to a safer and more secure workplace. You can see we've got all of the federal agencies represented. We have a staff of in-house compliance experts, as well as third parties that we partner with for legal advice and industry trends. We are focused on reporting out to various auditing agencies. And then ultimately, we also have the contractor consortium, which is designed to provide transparency from the contractor employee through the contractor company, ultimately to that owner-operator site. I mentioned being here since 2002, and this slide just represents the evolution and expansion of DISA. We're always challenging ourselves with the question of what's next? What additional services can we provide? What additional functionality can we provide to our clients to help them with their employee management and their fleet management? As you can see, in 1992, that's when the DISA Contractor Consortium was created. It is the first and largest of its kind. In 2003, we moved to an online platform. Again, this was the first of multiple online proprietary web-based systems allowing management from the employees as well as clients. We also launched that year an EPCC program, which stands for Exploration and Production Contractors Consortium. This was focused on the upstream oil and gas industry and the management of contractor compliance. That same year, we also launched our background screening products. And again, it was just a handful of specific products based on one client's need and feedback. And from there, it quickly grew and expanded. In 2004, we partnered with a large safety council in developing NASAP, the North American Substance Abuse Program. Again, this was focused on drug and alcohol testing compliance across predominantly downstream energy sites. In 2008, we launched several new services, including hair testing specific to the Contractors Consortium. We had already had that introduced via corporate policies. And then occupational health services, which took on a couple of different fronts. One was the third-party participation. One was our service centers, which are occupational medical buildings that you can visit across the country. And then our mobile and on-site testing and screening. And these were vehicles and trailers that could go to the client's site to perform the various services. In 2013, we introduced transportation compliance services. And a few of the big components of this were driver qualification files, working towards that specific compliance to DOT regulations as it relates to the employee. We quickly evolved into the non-regulated drivers as well, licensing and permitting, and tax refund services. In 2015, we introduced a new drug testing methodology to our clients by creating the Oral Fluid Testing Contractor Consortium. 2019, we further expanded our training division. For years, we've had different training services, but this really took on a whole new level with regards to that policy review, development with the ever-changing state laws, and then audit support, where you can actually have mock audits conducted to see if you're prepared and where your gaps are in the event of a future audit. And then most recently, we launched continuous driver monitoring, which falls under the header of transportation compliance as well as background screening, where we're constantly paying attention to whether or not there have been any negative infractions with regards to the driver's motor vehicle record. The first section that I'll focus on is drug and alcohol testing. As I mentioned before, we have a number of different program types, including DOT, corporate, and the consortium. As far as methodologies, we focus on urinalysis testing, hair testing, oral fluid testing more recently, and we are also the largest TPA provider of breath alcohol testing. We offer a variety of test purposes, from pre-employment to random, post-accident and reasonable suspicion, and a number of other tests that may occur based on your employer situation or your client situation. And all of these are managed through our proprietary online systems, so clients can very easily manage their account, manage their roster of employees, pull up statistical reports and any test results or screening results that they may have. They're also provided with renewal notices and ordering capabilities for electronic CCF. As far as the chain of custody goes, the marketing team did a great job of making this slide look simple, but is an incredibly complex process. It starts with the interaction between the client and the employee or applicant. At that point, that employee goes to a collection facility to have the specimen collected. We have a network of over 6,000 collection sites in our database eligible for our clients to use. And several thousand of them have the electronic CCF or custody and control form capabilities for the paperless initiative. This improves accuracy as well as turnaround time results. From the collection site, the paperwork and specimen are sent to a certified laboratory. Depending on the methodology and policy, this may be a SAMHSA certified urinalysis lab for DOT testing. It may be a CAP certified or FDA approved certified for non-DOT testing, including oral fluid, urinalysis, and hair testing. Now, the lab's job is to determine whether or not the drug is present at the levels identified per that panel in the employer's policy. They are not identifying whether or not it is illicit or legitimate. Once the laboratory has identified that substance, they communicate those results to the MRO, the medical review officer. Now, the MRO's job is to determine whether or not the presence of that drug is legitimate or illicit. As an example, if I have a prescription for a pain medication that was prescribed in my name by my doctor, I've filled it and I've been taking it, that could comply as a legitimate excuse, an explanation for why the MRO should overturn that lab positive and ultimately report that test out as negative. Flip side, if I test positive for cocaine, odds are I do not have a prescription and the MRO will ultimately report that test out as positive. In the event of a positive MRO test, there are additional steps that may occur based on the program and policy that that employee is in. These include the SAP, Substance Abuse Professional, which will evaluate the situation and determine any follow-up action and rehabilitation steps necessary for that worker. And then that information is communicated to the Return to Duty Department, who will ultimately track and monitor the successful completion of that testing. With regards to background checks, we have a number of different programs and services. Specialized services include the online ordering and tracking, the grading and evaluation. This creates a standardized way to evaluate records coming in. This is incredibly helpful when you've got hiring managers receiving these reports, which could be very lengthy, in determining whether or not that person complies with the policy. All of our programs are focused on FCRA compliance, and we've created bundles allowing clients to group products specifically together so they can order the necessary programs, again, in a standardized fashion. As an example, if I'm ordering 5 products because of a new hire driver, we can bundle that and call that package new hire driver package. Flip side is if we have an individual working in the office and they have a different set of products, we can make that bundle and clearly title it so when the hiring managers or the representatives from the company are within our systems ordering those, they can clearly identify them and always remain standardized. Now, I've referenced grading and evaluation with regards to that standardization and review by DISA. We've created a 0 to 7 scale, which you can see on the slide. A 0 grade means no records found, and it accelerates up to a 7 where there's a Patriot Act hit. Everywhere in between is varying degrees of severity with regards to those criminal checks. So you can see a score of 1 or 2 includes misdemeanor violations, where when you move into 3 through 6, now you're getting into felonies and multiple violations potentially. Again, increasing the severity. The transportation compliance section is focused on 2 large areas. One is the driver management and the other is the fleet management. With regards to the driver management, these services are focused on both DOT and non-DOT drivers. Starting first with driver qualification file management. This is providing real-time online program access. A key benefit with regards to the driver qualification files within DISA is that if you are using additional DISA services that may be part of that file, our system will auto-populate that data into the driver qualification file. You'll also have the ability to have renewal notices, expiring warnings, and significant amount of audit assistance online. In the event of an audit, God forbid, you have the ability to identify which specific files will be reviewed and provide a username and password to that auditor so they're simply accessing those specific files within DISA online. Next, we have hours of service auditing and out of route reporting. These are focused on the driver's activity within the vehicle and constantly monitoring them to ensure that they're in compliance with regulations regarding the amount of hours they can spend in the vehicle. And then lastly, in our most recent product offering is continuous driver monitoring. And again, this is focused on real-time alerts on negative driver activity. In the event that something is flagged, the client will have the opportunity to place a complete MVR, or motor vehicle record, and at that point, they'll get the surge with all the data providing this. With clients that have implemented continuous driver monitoring, they have seen 22% reduction in monthly violations, 14% reductions in monthly crashes, and a 32% reduction in just overall company risk profile events. Again, creating a transparent, diligent program will absolutely improve your safety and your security within your workplace for your employees. The next is fleet management. And you can see there's a number of different service offerings under this umbrella, starting first with licensing and permitting. Just an example, this includes the procurement of state mileage and oversized permits. Next, you have fuel tax reporting. This is an interesting one. This is where an individual will fill up their truck in one state at the gas pump, and taxes are paid in that state at the gas pump. But that driver is driving across state lines through potentially one or more states where they're using the roads, but taxes aren't being paid because they were paid at that previous state within the pump. And so our solution is providing little tax returns to make sure that the appropriate dollars are allocated to the states based on the mileage that's occurring within that state's roads. Next, and this is a great one, and it's a little well-known secret, tax recovery and refund. This is an opportunity for qualified companies and drivers to receive refunds. Again, there's several different opportunities, reefer, regeneration, PTO fuel refunds. And again, our team is working with the client to identify, one, if the opportunity exists for a refund, and then ultimately doing the calculations and filling out the necessary paperwork to complete the process. We also have toll cost analysis, which is focused on identifying charges that may occur during the route. And again, this is for two reasons. One, to identify if the cost structure that the client believes to be the case with a specific route is occurring, but also two, the rebilling of that to their clients potentially. Automated e-log analysis, and then other fleet management services. Again, really focused on helping the client manage their business, and we're taking the compliance aspects and a lot of the administrative burden off their plate. Next, I'd like to talk about occupational health. This is a solution that we added in 2008, and it was focused on providing drug and alcohol collections as well as fitness for duty screens. We accomplished this through two different paths. One were third-party vendor partners that had sites all across the country. Two call-outs you can see with the maps, Concentra and Nova. Significant coverage, providing convenience for our clients in their local area. The second avenue for providing these services was through DISA-owned facilities that we call service centers. These service centers also provide drug and alcohol collections and a variety of fitness for duty screens. Now, with regards to the occupational medical records tracking, we have that built into our online systems. And again, it starts with ordering of the products or the package of products, communicating the specific protocol to the OC Health facility that the individual employee will be going to, and then ultimately tracking the records that come from those screens, consolidating the invoice, and providing renewal and expiration notices if applicable. With regards to the DISA-owned facilities, we have 21 of them around the country. Again, core service center solutions include drug and alcohol collections. Some of the call-outs with regards to the fitness for duty screens include audiometric testing, pulmonary function testing, and respiratory fit. We also have extensive physicals. Additional health offerings in certain locations will include work-related injuries and case management. Lastly, I'd like to talk about training. Training covers a variety of different solutions. We started with online and classroom training focused on both drug and alcohol awareness, like employee education, and reasonable suspicion supervisor training. And we expanded that into more safety-related trainings, OSHA refresher courses as an example. More recently, we've expanded this solution to include policy review. Again, the ever-changing legal climate from state to state to state is a challenge. And most employers are struggling to combat it, especially the ones that are located across multiple states. And so this solution will allow clients to have policies reviewed, identify if there's any outstanding state considerations, and then it can go as far as developing specific policies that ultimately those clients can have reviewed by their attorneys. And then lastly, the audit support. And this service is really just focused on assisting employers with maintaining compliance, identifying the appropriate documentation, logging, and reporting, and ultimately providing mock audits to identify any potential gaps, prior to the real audit occurring. This next section is summarizing the suite of services and giving you a peek under the tent with regards to future services. Again, DISA is focused on compliance, driving that compliance by helping clients with the administrative burden, the reporting, and the selection. We cover corporate and DOT and client-driven, which is the contractor consortium, and we are covering several different modalities and industries, both DOT regulated and not. As far as upcoming services, DISA Hire. This is an exciting new one where it's an integrated applicant tracking system tied into the DISA ordering model for all of the services we just discussed. And so now clients are going to have the ability to get in on the front end with recruiting and then continue that process through the selection and ultimately onboarding. So those systems will be talking with clients' current system to make sure that it's a seamless process. This is currently being piloted by several of our clients, and we would certainly welcome feedback from any other interested clients listening, and we plan to commercialize and launch this in 2021. Next, we've got the marijuana breathalyzer, and this is exciting technology really designed to combat the ever-changing marijuana legalization climate. Bottom line, this is a device that is focused on recent detection, recent usage. So, you think about the impairment window of usage within 2 to 3 hours. A marijuana breathalyzer, similar to an alcohol breathalyzer, will detect that recent usage. Where all other traditional drug screening methodologies like urinalysis, oral fluid, and hair are detecting days, weeks, and potentially months of previous usage. And then lastly, MAP, which is our mobile application. And this is falling under the transportation compliance header, but it's focused on assisting and streamlining the background check application process for drivers. So again, these are all ideas that have been generated by employees and clients. We always welcome feedback on the what's next. I thank you for your time, and at this point, we'll move into Q&A.
Colin, that was awesome. Hey, thank you so much. I think that it's a great opportunity for any of our current customers or even potential customers to understand our complete suite of solutions. And if they'd like to speak right now with one of our sales leaders, they'd be able to click on that chat button at the bottom right. If they'd like to have someone contact them next week, just go ahead and put something in the Q&A and we'll have all of those questions followed up on. We're going to answer a couple of those right now, though. First, what is DISA doing to stay ahead of the competition or doing differently from others?
So I think one of the the things that we've done to stay ahead of the competition, but really just provide services to our clients that are beneficial and help them administratively or from a compliance perspective, is pay attention to industry trends and really listen to client feedback. Whether or not we offer a service, we want to understand what's causing them pain in their daily processes. What's creating administrative burden? What is keeping a worker from getting on site and ultimately generating revenue for a client? And so having these conversations in conjunction with listening to, what's happening in the industry, that really allows DISA to, develop these new services and functionality. We've got a robust IT team that helps us do all the in-house development. And again, we can respond based on that feedback and that industry dynamic.
Colin, someone wrote in and asked, it's cost prohibitive to test with multiple methodologies. What's the benefit to doing that?
Yeah, so when you think about various drug testing methodologies, they each have pros and cons. And so what we've seen is a trend where employers are using multiple methodologies. By using multiple methodologies, you are eliminating the cons and capturing all the pros. Now, you're right. The challenge is with regards to cost, you may be performing 2 tests instead of 1, but the gaps that you're closing and the risk that you're mitigating far outweighs, the cost of an additional test, just as an example.
How do I answer an employee's question on whether or not they can use CBD oil?
Yeah, CBD oil, that's a tricky subject and a moving target. It's a bit of buyer beware. CBD oil, again, there's several different forms and they're not FDA regulated. So users run the risk that they may be using a CBD oil that claims to not have THC present, where they actually do, and ultimately they test positive. So I would say just a lot of education, a lot of awareness. Certainly if CBD with THC violates a policy, the employer needs to understand that because testing will pick that up. Think of it like a non-alcoholic beer that magically has alcohol in it. That is not going to be a good situation for the employee, and it will absolutely present risk if that individual's impaired.
Colin, next question is, how is your DQ program different from other national programs?
So, we've built the DQ program from the ground up. It has been solely based on client feedback, some of their challenges, some of their manual processes and paper-driven processes. So we focused on going electronic. I would say one of the biggest factors that drives its uniqueness is that it's integrated with all of our other services. So those DOT Federal Motor Carrier drug tests performed by DISA auto-populate into that driver's file. The various background check programs, training, etc. All of that is being auto-populated, and then we have renewals and expirations that are communicated to the client, and then the client can very quickly initiate those various renewal or expiring products from their DQ file.
Colin, question is, how can my company leverage ECCF sites nationally? Is that availability still expanding?
Yeah, so ECCF, or Electronic Custody and Control Form, this is the online electronic version of your traditional paper drug testing form. This has been around for years. We've seen the technology dramatically improve over those years. We've also seen the availability of collection sites with ECCF capabilities expand. It's continuing to expand. Every week we're adding sites and activating sites with this capability, with this technology for our clients. So when a client goes into DISAWorks to place an order for ECCF, or the electronic drug test for their employee, they will have their list of collection sites that have this service available, and that list is automatically repopulated and updated based on our operations team. This is a fantastic function. There's no additional cost to this, but it will improve accuracy. Think of handwritten paperwork versus typed in, and more importantly, we've seen turnaround time reduced by up to 25%. So you're going to get your test results more accurately and quicker leveraging this technology. And you don't have to physically hand that employee the form or mail that person the form. It can come right on their phone.
We have different teams managing our program out of different offices. Can I track invoicing, random testing, et cetera, by my office location?
Yeah, great question. So that's the beauty of our web-based online solutions. Our clients can manage their accounts from anywhere. And we talked about a lot of standardization protocols that we've built in. Bottom line, we also have security protocols where different users on your account have the ability to access different information. As an example, if you have someone in your finance department who simply deals with invoices, we can restrict their access to just invoices, whether those are emailed to them or available online. As far as a national security user, they may have the ability to see all of their locations, all of the different results and rosters that are being managed, and then you can have site-by-site leadership. Now, the beauty of creating packages in grading and evaluation programs is that you're creating standards that won't be deviated as you go from site to site to site. So now a company with 100 locations nationwide can all operate exactly the same way under the exact same policies and protocol.
Next question says, I noticed one of the drug testing slides mentioned consortiums. Can you provide a little bit more information on what that is and who benefits from it?
Sure. So the DISA Contractors Consortium was a program that was developed in the early 90s. It was focused on drug testing at the time. Over the years, it's evolved significantly. It's expanded the various drug testing policies, it's added background check programs, and it's spanned a number of different industry segments: refining, petrochemical, chemical, LNG, midstream operations, and exploration and production, just to name a few. Now, who benefits? All parties involved. When you think about it, starts with the owner, that site that is implementing the consortium. It's focused on transparency and compliance. We're not only tracking at the company level, but more importantly, the individual employee level. And so now that owner's benefiting because they're getting standardized testing, they're reducing redundant testing, and they've got that compliance accessibility where they can validate whether or not John Doe is in compliance prior to letting that individual on site. Now, the employer, the contractor company, is benefiting because this program establishes a mobile work-ready employee. If that individual is in compliance, he can go from owner site to owner site very quickly without a lot of administrative burden and, again, redundant testing. So this saves the contractor company time and money and ultimately gets those workers on site in a compliant fashion, generating revenue. And lastly, the employee, the worker, when they know that there are standards and there's tracking and the individuals that they're standing next to on site have been screened just like they have, there's a higher confidence in the safety and security procedures around it.
If I use driver monitoring, do I need to run my annual MVRs on employees?
Great question. And this is actually a perk of this service. Not only are you getting that continuous driver monitoring to identify potential infractions throughout the year, it does remove the requirement to run that annual motor vehicle record check.
Colin, I'm sure we get this one all the time. Why do my employees get pulled for urine and hair tests so often?
Good question. So each individual drug testing policy has its own random selection requirements. So as an example, you may have a driver that is in a DOT federal motor carrier urinalysis policy, subject to randoms that occur at least quarterly, but could occur more frequently based on the client's request. That same individual may be in an additional methodology based on the company's requirement or a client requirement. And so that individual is subject to multiple random programs, and those random programs are generated either monthly or quarterly.
And Colin, final question. I know we have a hard out. When do you expect to launch DISA Hire?
Yeah, DISA hires exciting, and we've had some very successful beta tests. So thank you to the clients that have participated in that. We do believe this is going to be a 2021 launch. We're putting some finishing touches on it in Q4, and then I think we'll start communicating and marketing out to clients in Q1.
Awesome. Hey, Colin, thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge with our attendees. With that being said, we're about to wrap up. Any final words for them?
I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. Again, this is the last session with Day with DISA. Phenomenal event. Hopefully you've learned some things. This has spurred on some questions, and we're certainly here to assist. So please reach out to your DISA representative with any follow-up questions. Again, thank you very much.
Colin Woods, General Manager for DISA Global Solutions. We appreciate you taking some time out of your afternoon to share your knowledge. And with that being said, thank you to all of our attendees for attending Day with DISA. This is obviously our first digital conference. We're hoping that the next one we do is back in person. So we hope to see you in person soon. Thank you.